The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I started to question myself if I was watching Lucha Underground and I had accidentally flipped over to Cinemax.
Not a whole lot of faces shown as far when it comes to Brenda, so
Yeah.
You're spot on there, buddy.
This is the house that AJ Styles built.
Like Nakamura, he's just such a great star. It doesn't matter what you do with him, people are going to cheer for him.
Did you feel the gloriousness? Did you feel it? Bobby Roode did his job.
This is insane how great they are.
Well, I think the authors of pain are young prodigies.
That's how good we are representing Bullet Club. This is what we do.
Super Kid Pate! Japan!
And I told everyone that Kevin Owens wasn't the man for the job. He wasn't the man to carry the United States Championship, and I just proved out there that I am the man. As a matter of fact, is that done?
Yep, your name is right on it.
See how quick I took his name off and put mine on? That's what this is all about. This is about the United States Championship. What does it represent? It represents the workhorse of WWE, and that is AJ Styles.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the max.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling to the Max, episode 257, part 2. That's right. And of course, we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com as well as 411mania.com. And to give you guys a heads up, or maybe just a revise, or make sure you go check us out on any place that you find podcasts. Like, hey, maybe you go use Apple Podcasts. Go ahead and do us a favor. Hit that 5 stars. Go ahead and rate and review. Maybe put a comment there to let people know what you think about the show. That kind of just helps us out, gives more people the word about our show. And of course, hey, make sure you also go check out the W2M Network as well. Go subscribe to both. I don't care. Just make sure you subscribe and comment because it's awesome and you guys are awesome. Plus, don't forget the YouTube channel. We love you guys over there. We love getting the YouTube chats and all that stuff going on the comment section as well. So make sure you go there. And, maybe also mention the Facebook group here. Let you guys know Wrestling to the Max on Facebook is always available. It's got a lot, trust me, a lot of content. Lots of people over there talking about wrestling in all sorts of formats. You don't want to miss a minute of that action, so go join now if you haven't already. Lots of great stuff from us. We are so happy to be able to bring content to you every week, whether it be our review shows or maybe just these regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max. We want to give you the best content of possible and available. Of course, I am your host, Gary Vaughan. Along with me is Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And sadly tonight we are not with Sean Garmer. Let me first, address the elephant in the room. We're a day later than usual. We usually come to you guys on Friday morning. We are Saturday morning, but guess why? It is because there was a lot of things going on yesterday, and we put the show off another night, but hey, we're here. That's what the positive thing is. Sadly, though, Sean had to make an emergency trip to the hospital with his daughter. Some medical stuff going on there. And we've talked to Sean, and I don't want anybody to worry. She is doing okay. This is something that they've dealt with in the past, and I'll let Sean talk about that. It's not up to me to talk about stuff like his personal life, but his daughter is doing okay. Nothing too serious, but he had to go up and take care of some things, and that's great. We're glad that he's able to, get things taken care of like that and make sure that his daughter's in a good situation. So very, hopeful that things work out, and I think it will. Or just, hope that he has a great night off and really can focus on the family. It's very important. So, but once again, Paul, we are left to our own devices, so this thing may explode at some point. I don't know.
I always worry when Sean's not here that one of us might say something really bad, or because you and me, we don't really I think we play along better with some of the gross stuff where Sean kind of tries to shut it down. So
Yeah.
I'm afraid like we'll go too far one time, or I'll mess up here on the production board and just my computer lights on fire and suddenly we'll lose the entire episode or something.
Yeah.
So you never know. You never know what happens when it's just us two.
Exactly. I'd rather, the computer explode rather than me say a comment that, just destroys our reputation and basically gets myself fired from this show. So let's just hope that none of that takes place. Let's just have a lot of fun and really, do it with Sean in our minds and really thinking about him saying things like, guys, shut up. So, we are definitely going to talk a lot about wrestling tonight. I am so excited because we got some great quick hits tonight. We'll be talking about some possible WB shakeups happening again. That's right. It's already being mentioned that some Raw and SmackDown talent may switcheroo again. So we'll be getting into that. Plus, we have some major news with Lucha Underground we can't wait to talk about because we've been discussing this. Now we actually have a little bit more information. Also, we have some other big news in the quick hits that you don't want to miss, so don't miss that. Plus, also, we'll be talking Lucha Underground. We'll also get into this week's episode of Impact Wrestling and crown a superstar of the week. So there you go. We have a lot of great content coming. But Paul, before we jump into wrestling, we mention this all the time. It's too hot in Texas to go outside. It just is. So we stay inside. We are hermit crabs for the moment until winter comes and we can actually walk outside and not pass away. But, there's a few things in entertainment that I always like to throw out here. And I'm a big fan of horror genre, just am. I've followed it for a long time. I loved the Italian horror, things like that. But there's actually some things coming out in the near future that I'm kind of excited about. One of them being the It movie. I just saw the big trailer release that they did this past Thursday. Really excited about that. I don't know how excited you are about that, but man, it looks so good.
I think the trailer looks really good. That might be as far as I go. I have a very deep-seated fear of clowns that stems from my childhood. So any scary clowns or anything like that, if there's clowns in haunted houses or something like that, I shut down and I don't do it and I go the other way. So I don't think I will see it, but I will agree it looks very creepy and scary, and I think Pennywise looks like nightmare fuel right now. So if that's what they were going for, mission accomplished.
They did an excellent job, and I have a feeling this movie is going to make the TV special look like Sesame Street. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling it's going to look pretty dumbed down once they make this movie and put, they've already made it, but when it gets out there where people can see it. So, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And I'm surprised you have such a, hatred of clowns as well and fear of clowns. I grew up, in a house where my mom would, decorate different things. And, of course, my room had to be clowns at one point when I was a kid.
Oh, God.
And what the interesting thing, I don't know if she ever knew this till later, but I took every picture off the wall that she gave me in the decorative, and I put it in my sister's closet. Didn't put it in my closet. No way. It went into my sister's closet, and so that shows you I do not like clowns, never have, but I will be in the theater. And if you want to come join me, Paul, I will hold your hand. Don't worry, I'll keep you safe. I am going to go see it, though, man. I've got to, because I have some buddies who really want to see it. But I love to face my fears sometimes, right? So I'm going to do it. I'm going to, and if my picture on my Facebook profile becomes a red balloon, I'm gone. I'm done.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. When I was 3, my parents took me to the circus, and it's one of my earliest memories I can remember because this clown got straight into my face and just freaked me out so bad that we had to leave. So
wow.
Yeah, it did not go well, and ever since I just can't do clowns. There's an episode of Supernatural that I've seen too that because one of the main characters is afraid of clowns, and I so relate to that. So if you go see it, I might do it though too, just to buck up and face my fear. But we might have to hold hands, Gary. And
yeah, we may just have to do that. We may have shed a few tears together as well. Oh man, that could be an explosion right there. They're like, these 30-year-old men are crying in the theater. We don't know why. Yeah. But oh wow. But
can you ask them to leave?
Woo, we'd be in trouble. My wife would laugh. But it's kind of funny too. Talking about clowns, I watch American Horror Story. I love the circus one, and the clown in that was creepy. There's some other creepy things with clowns. So trust me, we both share that in fear. One thing we may actually like together though, coming out in the near future, is the new Spawn. But but here's the thing, Paul, and I want you to just make me feel better about this. Todd McFarlane is saying that he's going to make this new Spawn, but apparently he's not going to make it like we would think he's going to make. Apparently, like, Spawn's going to be kind of like a ghost or something. I don't know. I've heard some really weird things coming out of that. You got to make me feel better. Have you heard anything about this new Spawn movie?
So Todd McFarlane is, if I remember correctly, and I might be rusty when it comes to Spawn, he's the creator and the original writer for it and all that from the comics. So I have no doubt that no matter what he wants to do with the character, whether it's updating it, whether it's trying to change stuff around or anything like that, trying to just kind of, I don't want to say modernize it, but something like that, I'm willing to jump on board, right? And the thing I'm worried about though is I don't think he's ever directed a movie before. Like, he's been on TV and stuff like that, but he has no directorial experience, so that's more what I worry about. Is there's a great story and all this stuff there, but he can't make the transition from print to picture, That's more what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, and that could be an issue. I just love the premise of Spawn and everything about it, and it does lie in the house of a horror genre because of just the background, and that's exactly what Todd McFarlane's talking about doing, is making a horror film that's Spawn, and that may work out the way it needs to. I have fears. I want to see it come out good. I mean, it probably will be a lot better than the Spawn we got back in the day, which I still enjoy that one. I know people hate it, but I thought it was kind of fun. So we'll see. I mean, that's just a guy that really has a lot of ideas, and it's his creation, but I hope it works out where I can go and enjoy it and not be disappointed. So
yeah, and I think a lot, like we talked about this whenever we were talking about Spider-Man earlier on the first part one, I think. We like superhero films now, there's so many of them that they're trying to diversify them by adding on other genres, and maybe that's just what he's trying to do here, is not just make it feel like another superhero movie,
True. What makes Deadpool so great is it's a comedy.
Yeah.
So that's just it's very adult, but it's a comedy. So that we'll see. We'll have to follow that. So there's your entertainment news, people. We had to throw that in there. Now you can feel great about your summer and what we're doing here on Wrestling to the Max. We're giving you entertainment and wrestling. Get it? Sports entertainment.
Yeah. And if you want to scare the crap out of me and Gary, now you know what to do. Just send us pictures of clowns.
And, no other pictures of anything else. Trust me.
Yes,
just the clowns.
Please. Yeah, just clowns.
No other pictures need to be seen. Although Paul is single, so you can send him a few extra things, ladies. So, anyway. Let's move on and talk some wrestling, Paul. We've got lots of quick hits to get into, and I'm really excited about doing it, so let's do that next.
Let's do it, man.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Take it away, bud.
All right, guys. Well, we have so much to get into tonight, and before we get too far, I've got to mention, I like to mention the sad things first, and thank goodness we're not talking about a wrestler that passed away. But this is someone who passed away, and I'm mentioning it because it is in relation to wrestling. If you guys like Steve Austin, and you've listened to Steve Austin's podcast, you've heard him talk a lot about Hershey the Wonder Dog, right? And this is not only a pet, but I kind of, from the gist of things from Steve Austin, it's been a family member for a long time. And, Hershey the Wonder Dog did pass away, and it is so sad. I mean, I feel for Steve Austin, and this is just a rough time, I'm sure, for him. I've yet to listen to the episode where he talks about this. But, Paul, I know you've probably lost a pet. This is tough. I just kind of feel bad, man. I hate that this happened.
I've never owned a dog in my lifetime, but we have birds, and I think any pet that you interact with on a long-term basis just sort of becomes a part of the family, somebody you grow very attached to. And I know people are way more into dogs, but you have like crazy cat people and crazy bird people and crazy other pet type people that when something dies, it really means a lot to them. And I'm sure Steve is experiencing a great amount of pain and loss from losing such a valuable friend, and that's best wishes, of course, go out to him for all that. But it's always rough to lose a pet. I know you have dogs too, Gary.
Yeah, I do have dogs, and I love them. And I had a dog for 19 years. His name was Stetson. I mean, I grew up pretty much with a dog, and for a dog to live 19 years, that's a long time.
That's a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And he finally did pass away, and it was really tough. I mean, hard on the whole family because my dad, is not per se just a big dog lover. He likes them okay, but he doesn't really care. And I really never thought he really just loved that dog much. But I still remember this day him calling me, and pretty upset in tears that the dog had passed away. And it shows you how much dogs mean to people. And even though they can be the toughest guy in the world, still brings them to tears. Yeah. So
big old country boy dogs die. You're going to see him crying for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. So, best wishes, like Paul said, to Steve Austin, and hopefully lots of healing over there. Well, let's talk about something else that's, hopefully some really great news that'll cheer us up. And that is the fact that we are getting some news, and this is from the creators of Lucha Underground, that season 4 of Lucha Underground is looking good, Paul.
Yeah, this is not a confirmation in any way that it will happen, but the creatives over at El Rey say it looks good and looks likely to happen, which is great. I know a lot of people have been on the fence about it, and wrestlers have been pretty upset and all this other stuff. They got a lot, I think, to try to do to recapture people's imaginations and that momentum that they had before this long break, but I tell you what, man, I know a lot of people have been sort of down on this season. I've really enjoyed it, honestly. I love the entire promotion, so long as this keeps going, I'm going to be one happy wrestling fan.
Yeah, I am too. When we were first getting some, a little bit of rumors and words that nothing had really been discussed, not much is moving in that direction, it really kind of bummed me out because this is a promotion that really gives you something different than any other promotion, right? I mean, outside of Chikara, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they give you so much when it comes to fantasy, to storytelling, everything under the sun, plus, some pretty great matches. And just to have that gone from our normal schedule, it just kind of bummed me out. So this is excellent news, if you ask me. Something that's, to me, important in the world of wrestling. We need these varieties. We need some different flavors to really keep us interested in the product overall. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see, or at least happy to hear, that this could be going in the right direction. But once again, you just said it, Paul. Not confirmed. So don't think because we're in a good mood right now that we'll be in a good mood in a few weeks. We have no idea.
Yeah, this is just the first bit of good news that's really come across that, hey, this is moving forward in a direction to where it looks like we'll get more content, which is, happy feet time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's also, and here's the interesting thing about this, right? We've heard lots of interesting things from some of the wrestlers that wrestle in that promotion, and for the fact that their contracts usually last for a long time because their airings on TV are so separated out and so long. A lot of the talent's unhappy because they can't go do anything else. I mean, they can go do indie stuff and things here and there, but really they're kind of handcuffed. And without the knowledge of, if their future is going to still be in limbo or if they're going to have a job next year with Lucha Underground, there's been a little bit of, unhappiness with some of these guys. Do you think this will, kind of maybe clear up some of those fears? Do you think it'll make guys less, happy thinking, well, man, I was almost off the hook? Or what do you think about that?
I think the big thing for the contracted wrestlers is the biggest caveat that Ricochet revealed is that they can't work American TV. They can work TV overseas. They can work iPay-per-views here in the States. They can do really a lot more than I think some other places might give them. They just can't do American TV. And if you want to go to to WWE, for example, like Ricochet kind of does, and maybe some of these other people that are making noise. Maybe that's probably the big deal. Is like, look, WWE's talking to us. We want to go. We can't. We have contracts, and we can't be on TV, and that's WWE's deal. So I think that's mostly where it's coming from, and it also might be a lot of frustration too, because I think Lucha Underground was hot stuff. First 2 seasons, and they kept talking about touring, and that happened very briefly. Like they did a whole 3 shows, 3 or 4, because I think they did a couple festivals as well. But it's I don't know if it's frustration or wanting to move on to bigger things when they have that opportunity in front of them, and it's probably a bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And, it's something that, you have to kind of understand from a talent's point of view, for the fact that they really have a lot on the line when it comes to the future of their career when WWE or another big promotion comes calling. And if they have to continually say, well, no, you got to wait and you got to wait, well, they don't know if that opportunity is going to be around. They just, WWE may say, oh, well, we wanted you, but we just signed a guy that does pretty much everything you do, and we already gave the gimmick we were going to give you. So, yeah, sorry, you should have been here 2 months ago. And so that's a big deal for these guys, and that's why you like Ricochet and other big stars are kind of a little bit ticked. They're kind of like, come on, give us an opportunity. Let us out of the contract, or give us something to where we can go and do other things. And I get that totally. I think that maybe Lucha Underground will have to follow a different formula in the future if they keep using bigger names and want to keep using bigger names. Because, even Rey Mysterio is on that hook, right? I mean, Rey Mysterio kind of has to wait this out, too. And, he probably has a few other things he wants to do. I mean, the guy's not exactly getting younger. Mm-hmm. So, but, yeah.
I think the interesting thing here to look at as well is not only all of that, but just, there's talk of them maybe moving a time slot and everything like that as well. So if Wednesdays maybe don't do well, Sean also mentioned that El Rey's launching some big MMA show too. That looks to might be pairing up with this, and it might also have this sort of like same vibe, which could be super interesting too. So just more food for thought there.
Yeah, and for all you MMA fans, this will be definitely something really cool if it is like Lucha Underground. But yeah, I mean, like once again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm just happy to hear good news. Well, let's move on though, and we're going to talk about something that I think we're all going to be very interested in seeing what happens after this takes place. And of course, SummerSlam is a big deal, and this will be taking place following SummerSlam, and that's a superstar shakeup. Yeah, another one. And we're hearing that this is going to take place because there's still not exactly the right pieces in place. I think WWE kind of sees a few guys they'd like to switch brands and a few things that take place to possibly boost a brand. And that is, a really interesting thing, and not only that, it may be a good thing for some of these superstars. We're also hearing that some of the talent on the main roster may actually be moving down to NXT. Yeah, that's right. They're going to get, I guess in a way, demoted because there's some word that maybe Vince McMahon doesn't like some of these guys, and no matter how over they are with the fans, they may not be in Vince's wheelhouse, and he may just say, send them back to the NXT, let them build NXT even more. And some of the people that are not really being used at all could also be placed down there in NXT to kind of promote NXT in a bigger fashion, to give them more firepower like they needed more. Mm-hmm. So there's some interesting things coming out of this. And if this shakeup ends up being like this, Paul, I mean, do you think this is going to be a positive thing, or is this going to be some negatives?
I think it's a little telling that the last one was post WrestleMania. That was back in April. It's been 4 months that we've only dealt with this rosters, and they're already sort of getting gun shy about some of it. I think that's really telling that either they view one of the shows, and I'm assuming SmackDown, as really needing help, or they just want to move some pieces around to try to pop the ratings again, because apparently the episodes post the shakeup did really well, and then they fell off again. So there's a lot of thoughts there. Creatively, I don't know how much shaking up the rosters again is really going to help you, because like some of the guys you moved the first time still aren't really established. So I haven't a clue, and I don't know. Like, to me, I think the most interesting thing would be to recombine divisions, right? Like, I really think they're selling themselves short by not having the women as one entire division on Raw, and maybe move the tag teams to SmackDown, and that way you could bolster them without having to worry about plunging into NXT or anything like that for people who may or may not be ready.
And that's a great idea. It really is. I think that, if you have all the women on the same show, you're going to get something that's, not only really interesting because you have so many more matchups, but you've got such a well-rounded roster once you do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just that division becomes so much better, and you've got so many mixtures. It's not going to get to be old hat because we've already kind of seen it now. On both brands, this women's division is really kind of weird because it's just the same old same, but really nothing changes. Sure, there's a few faces that can, change around here and there, but there's only so many rotations you can do. So I think that'd be a great idea. And yeah, if you can focus on the tag team division on one show as well and just put all these teams together once again, it just makes it so much better. Even the cruiserweights are very interesting to me too, because even if you didn't do the tag teams, you did the cruiserweights, you maybe switch them to SmackDown because 205 Live is following SmackDown anyway. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just have that flow into the next show? But I think, with it being, like you said, 4 months, not being a long time, I think they've kind of seen maybe some of the moves they thought were really bright ideas were not exactly bright ideas. I still don't love Kevin Owens on SmackDown. I love Kevin Owens. I just don't like him on SmackDown. There's something about it. I don't care if you give the U.S. title or what you do. I just don't feel like he fits there. I would love to see him back on Raw. If they do this shakeup, I want to see him back on Raw and see what they can do, with some of these other guys. Heck, I think Nakamura would be great on Raw. So, yeah. I just think there's a few guys here on the SmackDown side that can be switched over. And, honestly, on the Raw side, there are probably some guys, I'm not really thinking of anybody in particular, but I'm sure some guys could head over from Raw to SmackDown and kind of give that a little bit more of a jump start. So, I honestly, maybe, just off the top of my head, I love Samoa Joe, but maybe Samoa Joe goes to SmackDown and makes it better. Maybe you let some of the bigger guys that are taking up a lot of space on Raw head over there and, give some different dynamics over there on SmackDown compared to what they have now. Because not a lot of big guys like they got on Raw over on SmackDown.
I think either Cass or Enzo's probably going to be one to get moved to, just because, once you've done everything up to SummerSlam, what is there really left to accomplish after that? So, who knows,
Mm-hmm. And, the trend is a lot of smaller guys on SmackDown, so Amore probably would be that guy. But, Big Cass, I think, once again, just talked about the big guys. It'd be great if big guy goes over and helps that brand.
Yeah.
So, and the NXT thing is so interesting to me, too, Paul, because, like I mentioned, there's just so much in that main event picture on NXT that they can't even, they can't fit everybody in that they need to fit in, and so they're kind of having to play the waiting game with guys like Drew McIntyre and some of the other names like Cassius Ohno in the main event. So they're having to kind of play the waiting game, adding some guys from the main rosters and putting them back to NXT. If you're not making them in the tag team division, you're putting them close to the main event. That's just not enough room. It'd have to be this long line. What do you think about that? Them dropping people from the main roster back to NXT?
I think it's an interesting idea. The problem is NXT's already kind of full, and they keep signing people. And we haven't even seen everybody that they've signed recently that's a big indie name show up, like the Donovan Dijaks and Adam Coles and stuff like that, if indeed Cole has signed. That hasn't been confirmed or anything like that. But I think this just goes back to my point that I started at the beginning of the year. Like, NXT needs to find a identity of whether it's a AAA, where it's literally the stepping stone to the main roster, and you have that tour around and get everybody used to what's happening with the main roster show, SmackDown, Raw, et cetera, et cetera. And you have a lower tier development territory where you have guys who aren't TV ready work there and get some experience. And if you need bigger names down there, then maybe you shuffle some stuff around and whatnot, and you could still air that on the network too if people want to watch that. So I I think there's a lot of growth and development, quote unquote. I think they just need to figure out a better system for it, especially if they're going to shift main roster people back down. I think it's just NXT is going to be so full. I mean, maybe this is what leads us to a 2-hour NXT, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it could. I don't want to see it go in that direction. I just don't. It's so nice to have a show on a Wednesday night that you can go and you can sit down in 45 minutes to an hour and just watch it through, and you're done, and you're happy. You got some great wrestling. You got, of course, quite a few squash matches, but you get some story. It's like just a quick shot of wrestling that night, right? It's not like, oh, God, I have to add another 2 hours to my week of wrestling, and then they start, kind of dragging things out, even though they have enough roster not to drag things out. I just don't think for the sake of what's going on there they need to do that. But I'm with you. I mean, I think that it's so filled up with talent. How can they drop talent into there and really expect them to flourish? I don't know. But, let's hope that they figure out a system. Let's hope if they do this, they kind of have a game plan for maybe the future and seeing how they can make things a little bit better for NXT. So, but yeah, I mean, this whole SummerSlam shakeup, is going to be really kind of interesting to see how it all, kind of all does work out. But I think what we're going to get at SummerSlam is a lot of big things. I think you're going to see some debuts. I mean, you mentioned Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole could be a name or a face we see at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I think, we've heard some rumors that Nikki Bella is going to be returning at SummerSlam. And we kind of glossed over that a little bit. I think we may have mentioned her name on Monday. I don't remember personally. But that's another name that could be returning at SummerSlam to really kind of help the SmackDown ladies and really bolster that division. What do you think about Nikki? I mean, overall, is that something that makes you happy? Are you indifferent?
I'm not going to say that Nikki Bella necessarily sets my world on fire, but SmackDown desperately needs another face, I think, on the women's side. Just because I feel like you have so many heels sort of gearing up for bigger things, and Charlotte and Becky are sort of tied up in a deal on their own, and they're both faces, and Naomi's sort of just left with the pieces. So having Nikki step in, I think, would be very helpful for SmackDown just on that division alone, because while she doesn't do anything for a lot of, people like us at times, I think a lot of the casual audience is really attached to her through all the Total Divas and Total Bella stuff. And I don't think you could really sell her ability to pop the crowd short. So I think SmackDown desperately needs it, even if it doesn't necessarily set my world on fire. But I don't hate the idea, I mean, she's not as terrible as she used to be,
Yeah. I'm a little indifferent on it myself. And if it works and it brings some new, I hate to say new life, because I think the SmackDown Women's Division is doing okay. They're not great, but it's okay. But if it does bring some more life into that division and does actually bring up some more interesting feuds and kind of gives us something different, I'm okay with it. And it really, to me, could be something that they could really help by adding a face that everybody knows, right? So, who knows? I mean, maybe they'll have some more interesting things, and like maybe bring Brie back. We've heard some rumors that Brie is planning on making a return too. So you could have not just one Bella be a part of either SmackDown or Raw. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it could be a great return. It could be something interesting. I think that the whole SummerSlam weekend is kind of like a WrestleMania light, or maybe a WrestleMania, but not WrestleMania, because it's a big deal. SummerSlam is a place where they can really have some big matchups and debuts, and who knows? We don't ever know who's going to walk out there. And one name that's kind of funny, and I'm not really honestly going to say that it could take place, but it's a really interesting thing, and that's the fact that we've had a name kind of being brought up back in the world of wrestling, and that's CM Punk. And yeah, I know, I just said his name, I said wrestling, and that's a far-fetched idea, but what we're hearing is that WB has been sending out some feelers, been kind of trying to talk to CM Punk a little bit, see his thought processes, where he's at in life right now, and his mindset. And there could be that possibility that, the future could hold CM Punk back in a WWE ring. But, Paul, you were telling me there may also be some other places interested.
Yeah, Joe Koff, who's sort of the big wig for ROH and Sinclair and all that whenever it comes to talking about what's going on there, has apparently had his intermediary, or his people talk to CM Punk's people and let them know to tell Punk that, hey man, the door is always open if you want to come back and work for Ring of Honor, because, I mean, if you've worked there before, the door is always open for you to come back because, obviously you have what it takes to make it there and all this stuff, so... It's not like this isn't the first time we haven't heard about CM Punk being offered another job in wrestling. Of course, What Culture, the owner there, was offering to pay CM Punk big money to show up and wrestle for the World Cup tournament that they're running. So, the demand hasn't gone away for him, even though it's been almost 3 years since he's walked out. So. I think that says something for staying power for him, at least. And if he does find his way back into wrestling, I mean, great for us. I just, you're getting a different person, I think, if he comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. This is not going to be the same CM Punk that you all remember. I think this is going to be maybe a little bit more serious CM Punk, maybe a guy that just kind of has a little bit different niche to him. Because he's lived some life between, wrestling and MMA and all that kind of stuff. And I think, it would really have to burn really within him to get back into wrestling. It'd have to be something that really kind of sparked back up, because I don't know right now that his life really is about wrestling anymore. I think at one point we saw him where that was his life, that was everything. Mm-hmm. And as time went on and the bitterness started to grow, he kind of started, getting away from that. And I think he's at a point in life right now where, yeah, wrestling's there, but it's not the love that it once was. So who knows? He may or may not ever do it again. But hey, if he showed up at a place like, WrestleMania or heck, even SummerSlam, yeah, boy, well, I think the roof would explode.
Yeah, for sure. And if you listen to him talk about it now, like, he feels like he got burned a little bit, and he feels like he's a failure because he never really technically got to main event WrestleMania. And that's what he wanted to do. So, and it's not to say he didn't have big matches there or anything like that to where you could say, yeah, you co-headline, but he was never the last match. And I think that was something he very much wanted and never got. And then, of course, all the politics backstage that ended up leading him to leave. I still don't think we'll see him in a WWE ring for a long time. And if he ever does come back to wrestling, I kind of hope he's a promoter, because I feel like he would present something very different and very cool and unique that would draw a lot of people in.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's a thought. I really never have put that into perspective. I think that could be really fun to kind of see how he would run a wrestling show, mm-hmm. see, where he would take it and what kind of talent he would add on to that roster. That'd be really kind of fun to see, honestly. So he could be. I mean, if he ever got into that, wanted to get into that could be really cool. The one thing is you never say never, and we saw this with Bill Goldberg, right? Bill Goldberg was a guy that really was bitter about the whole thing. Honestly, still to this day, he'll talk about wrestling, but it's not exactly like his pride and joy. He kind of puts it out there like, yeah, I made some money there. It's not about, oh yeah, I love my wrestling career and all of that. And so he's one of those guys, I think, like CM Punk right now. And if Bill Goldberg was willing to come back and do it for a payday and do it for his kid, maybe CM Punk would do it or find a way back in for his own certain reasons and not be all about, the love of wrestling. So we'll see, though. There's always that possibility. We want to keep you guys informed. Well, we're talking about SummerSlam. Their SummerSlam poster, has been thought to maybe be giving away a few spoilers, or maybe at least one big one. And this may not even be the case. This is all kind of rumor too. But, when you look at the poster, it looks like you could be seeing a triple threat in the main event, where you would have a guy like Jinder Mahal face off against Cena and Nakamura. There's that thought. There's that ability. I don't know if you even see that happening, Paul, but if it did happen, what would your thought process be?
I mean, it's certainly a great way to protect a big-time Cena-Nakamura match down the road if that so happens. Just because you could sort of, I guess, have the match on SmackDown this coming week end in a DQ or something like that to where nobody really wins, and suddenly it's like, all right, well, both of you went out there and proved you could do it, so here's the title match, and then one of them pins Mahal, and you still protect the match, right? So I could see it happening. It's just there's so many multi-mans on this card already. Like, do we really need another one?
I know. Oh my God! It's like, can we please have one singles match? At least one. And I'm sure they will have them. I think it could do a great disservice to that match, and then again, it could do something great for the storyline. And I think actually make the storyline more interesting. But I think a triple threat wouldn't be terrible, even though I want the singles match. I think I would be happy with it anyway. So
yeah, I mean, SummerSlam does feel pretty final as far as here's Jinder Mahal's title expiration date, and we're going to move on to something else because I don't think this was the home run they thought it would be. I don't think it's been awful. Once again, I think Jinder's sort of been the victim of having to work with somebody who's not invested in working with him or really anything right now in Randy Orton. But, I mean, it is sort of what it is, I guess, and they can't say that they didn't give him a shot now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we will have to wait and see on this whole thing. But if it does, shake out that way, I think it still could be good. Let's talk about something else. It's kind of interesting, and this is something that I didn't actually get a chance to see till later, and I finally got a chance to watch it. But they're going to start doing this, and they're going to do it on Tout, which it's very funny to me because I thought Tout was dead like 6 years ago. Yeah. But here we are, and so Tout is going to start airing Smacking Talk. Yeah, that's right, not Talking Smack, but Smacking Talk. And that, of course, is with Daniel Bryan and with Renee Young. And they had one following SmackDown this week. Very short, about 2.5 minutes. They had Chad Gable as their guest. It was quite funny. I really loved it. Paul, I mean, I'm okay if they continue to do it. I really wish this was on YouTube and not Tout. But still, it was a great time.
I mean, WWE has invested a lot of money into Tout. So I'm not surprised necessarily because it's a ready-made format for them to use that they could probably get away with and all that. But I thought if this is just sort of a silly little show to kind of poke fun at things, I'm okay with that. Because this first episode was hilarious with Daniel Bryan revealing to Chad Gable that he's his dad, even though he's only 5 years older than Chad Gable.
I love that Bryan says, I was a virile 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Renee trying to comfort him, too. Like, you're a new dad. You'll get the hang of this. It's so great. So, if they can keep finding ways to do it, even if it's just like little short interviews with one or two superstars afterwards to sort of just keep the idea of talking smack alive, I'm okay with it, right?
Yeah, I am too. And if they can make them funny and interesting, it's great. And they're not giving too much away. I mean, they're sticking to WWE storyline. It's not about Chad Gable talking about his personal life or anything else like that. All the stuff that Vince didn't want. So it's short, sweet, and a lot of fun. If they keep them like that, they're definitely worth watching. And I think they can do it if they use a little creativity and they can make it happen. So. Yeah, I'm so happy we at least have something in the fashion of talking smack. Let's talk about something else that could be really kind of cool, and I think what a lot of people are going to be looking forward to, and that is ESPN's 30 for 30 on Ric Flair. That's right. The Nature Boy will be coming out on November 7th at 10 p.m. Eastern. That could be a 30 for 30. All of us will be looking forward to, but not only that, it's something that's going to be really fun to watch because of the fact that there's a lot of stories out there with Ric Flair, and I'm really kind of curious how ESPN delves into his life and his career.
I think people always, we always talk about how big Hulk Hogan was for the business, where he was this big cross-promotional star because he did Hollywood and he did all these other things outside of wrestling, where I think Ric Flair was sort of the epitome of the top guy in pro wrestling no matter what, and I'm sure he did stuff outside of wrestling still, too, that I'm just not coming to mind right now. But this feels like a really big deal, and somebody who really lived, I think, what a lot of people imagine that 80s lifestyle to be. I think you're right. Stories upon stories to be had here, and it's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely exciting, and I'm really also kind of curious what they show. But not only that, how many of the promotions they show in his career, right? I really wonder if they're going to go deep into his career, if they're going to highlight every promotion he worked for. I mean, heck, they could even technically throw in some Impact stuff that he did later on in life, right? Mm-hmm. If they really wanted to, along with the WWE stuff. So I think that'll be what's the most fun to me, is to finding out really what they're going to include, how they're going to break this all down, and really showcase Ric Flair as he is. And, I think you're right. One of the biggest stars, of course, in the 80s, but, still to this day, a huge name. Huge, and he's not even wrestling anymore, so.
Do you think they show Impact stuff with that, with the relationship that WWE has with ESPN?
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. It's a thought, and it's something that's kind of there, but I don't think he did anything important enough to be really shown from Impact. There's always that possibility, and I know Jeff Jarrett's going to be claiming, they're going to have one of our guys out there on 30 for 30 on ESPN.
Right.
He'll be promoting it, and I'm sure he'll be calling ESPN, hey, we have footage. We'll even give you a discount, You're
probably right.
Yeah, we'll discount it a lot for you guys. We offer the Hardys the same discount, only about, 65% of what we want. So, but anyway, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. I joke about Ric Flair a lot, but I think, there's a lot of tragedies in his life, too, besides a lot of the ups that he's had to deal with. And I think that's something else that we'll be getting a chance to sneak a peek into his life, like his son passing away and things like that. And it'll also be interesting to see how much they show Charlotte, right?
Of course.
His daughter taking, his place and doing what she's trying to do and all that. And all the other ex-wives that, are going to be out there. I wonder if they're going to have them as well. I heard a rumor one time that WWE was thinking about doing a ex-wives of wrestler show.
Oh boy,
I know.
I would watch that so hard.
I know, but I think a lot of wrestlers would be very angry.
Yeah, I don't think there would be a lot of nice things said for most of them.
And poor Bray Wyatt would be on the hot seat then, too.
Oh boy.
Yeah, his wife already does it on Twitter. So
yeah, roasting him.
Oh, bad. So, well, we'll watch this Ric Flair thing. I'm really looking forward to that. Well, some other great news, I guess, if you want to say is great. We were just talking about GFW a little bit. Moose has signed a 3-year contract with him. Yeah, that's right. He's extending his career, apparently, with GFW, Paul. How do you feel about that? I thought he was going to be a WWE guy.
I feel like he's somebody that is, maybe not anymore, because it's not like Moose is a spring chicken or anything, but it felt like somebody who WWE would be very interested in. He's got the look and the size and everything like that, and he's improved rapidly, very quickly, even though I think that's sort of slowed down in GFW. I still think leaving Ring of Honor was a little bit of a mistake for him, but if he wants to be here, GFW clearly wants to do something big with him, so, maybe that's why he's sticking around, is the promise of being their top guy down the road, somewhere in the next 3 years, which is cool for him, right? I think that's, you get in the game to be the best, and somebody's going to promote you that way. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. And this is the best place for him for the fact that, like you said, this is the one spot that he's going to have where they're going to put him closer to the main event picture than WWE, I think, would right away, at least. Right now, as it sits, he's going to have more of a chance to do that. And right now, you've seen him as a grand champion. You'll possibly see him do some other things. Heck, it would not surprise me one day if he was your X Division champion. We saw Samoa Joe do it, so why not him? It's really cool to see Moose's progression. We'll talk about his match and Impact this week. But as I've watched Moose, he seems to be getting smoother. He seems to be a guy that's starting to really get this wrestling thing. So the better and better he gets, the more of a possibility you could see him to WWE ring. So
true.
Well, one last piece of business before we move on out of Quick Hits, guys, is this interesting tidbit, and it does include WWE and GFW both, and this all takes place in a bar. And wow, this is kind of weird and it's kind of funny. I'm going to let Paul talk a little bit about it because he kind of knows more about the story and some of the other things that took place. But we have Braun Strowman and Karen Jarrett in a bar at the same time. This sounds like a dirty joke could take place, but it's not. So, Paul, give us the real shakedown of what happened here.
So I've read two different stories. The first one is the one extreme of Karen Jarrett approaches Braun Strowman in a bar to sign an autograph for her son because he's a huge fan, and Strowman apparently curses at her and tells her no, and Karen freaks out on him, goes on this huge tirade, and says, I'm Kurt Angle's ex-wife, I'm going to tell Kurt that you're denying his son an autograph and all this stuff, and Strowman apparently freaks out and apologizes and gets on his knees at one point during the story and begs for forgiveness from Karen Jarrett about all this and signs it, and everybody leaves in sort of a huff. And I've heard the other extreme where Karen walks up, asks Braun for the autograph. Braun says, not right now. Karen goes, okay, walks off. Somebody tells Braun, hey, that's Kurt Angle's ex-wife, and so he goes outside and apologizes and takes a picture with her, and they move on with their lives. So I don't know which extreme is true. It's somewhere in the middle, but an incident did happen, and I just find it hilarious to think of Braun on his knees begging for forgiveness from Karen Jarrett.
Oh, God. And he's probably just as tall as her on his knees.
Probably.
Please don't tell Mr. Angle. Please don't tell him.
He's my boss in the show. Don't do that.
Talk about putting over, not killing kayfabe. Mm-hmm. Wow. This is really interesting, and I really want to know the real story. I do. I want to find out what actually did take place, but I probably won't get that. But I think it is so funny to see how this all worked out. And, I just don't know why, if Angle's son wanted a Strowman autograph, I mean, he could have just said, Dad, hey, give me an autograph while you're at work tonight. Okay?
You think Braun goes to Raw, like a house show or something the next night, he tells Kurt, like, hey, man, your ex-wife's a bitch, and he goes, yeah, I know.
Oh, man, it could be definitely a fun thing to see that. I'd love
to be a fly on the wall for that one, for sure.
Oh, I know, man. And I joke about Karen Jarrett all the time, so it was so nice to see a piece of news, like this. And, I love the idea of, humbling old Braun Strowman with Karen Jarrett. And I'm sure that, Jeff's over there kind of laughing. So this is interesting. I think this is a funny story, and we just had to throw it out there for you guys to kind of find out a little bit of the information that we know. And I love silly stories, and I really cannot wait for either of them being a podcast or a show that tells what their side of this thing. I just want to hear it now.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, well, guys, that is Quick Hits for us for tonight. Of course, now we have some other big things for you guys. We're going to talk some Lucha Underground next, and then later on we'll be talking some Impact Wrestling from this week. So let's go ahead and do it, Paul. Let's jump into some Lucha Underground and go to that temple.
Let's do it. All right. So Lucha Underground opens up with the usual video package recapping all the action from the Cueto Cup, which leads us into our second to last, I guess technically second round match, as Tejano takes on the Mac, and they get about 7 minutes or so. They go back and forth. Mac looks like he's about to win. In comes Famous B, though, who sort of starts shooting the Mac with a water gun, of all things. So the Mac obviously takes care of him with a stunner. The distraction, however, allows Tejano to hit a big powerbomb on the Mac to get the victory and move on in the tournament. I can't say I'm super interested in the Tejano Famous B storyline here, but it's not bad. And as much as it sucks to see the Mac go, clearly anybody with a big story going on is moving on, and that seems to be how they view this thing with Tejano.
Yeah, I mean, this match overall was pretty good. I mean, I really enjoyed that part of it. It was just pretty solid all the way around, right? And the match looks like $1 million. Really happy to see it. The water gun incident, cheesy, kind of silly. Like, what the heck's in the water gun to really make him that distracted?
I feel like it's right up Famous B's alley, though.
Yeah, it honestly is. Oh my God, he's hilarious. But Tejano and Famous B is an interesting dynamic, and it's not my favorite thing. I can't say it is. I mean, I enjoyed last week, the week before segment with what's her name? I think that was a lot better. But this is okay. We'll see where this whole thing goes with Mr. B. But I think, at least you got Tejano moving on. I think the Mac is great. He would have been one of the bigger favorites if he would have won. But this sets up, for what they're going to do later on in this tournament. So I'm okay with it.
Absolutely. We get a couple of really fun segments here. The first one, we see Son of Havoc in a bar having a drink. Son of Madness shows up and steals it. This leads to a fight as they sort of play out what Vampiro has been talking about on commentary. And that's, of course, Son of Havoc saying he's not going back to the motorcycle club. Madness tells him, hey man, I'm taking you back there, whether you want to or not. I'm going to make your life hell. And even if it's not your whole person that's there, I'll at least take your head back to him. So this kind of leaves Son of Havoc all pissed off and throws the drink against the wall. And then we smash cut essentially to the Rabbit Tribe is playing checkers on Saltador's chest because he has the obviously the white and black checker pattern on him. Mascarita Sagrada shows up and gives them a gift. They open it, it's a rabbit's foot, and they scream so loud. It's so funny. I love this segment so much.
I've not seen anything so great since we saw the freaking Hardy stuff on the compound. Oh my God. I just want to save this.
Yes.
I just want to watch this over and over and over again. You walked into Alice in Wonderland if it was made for adults. And, I mean, I just love it. Playing checkers on a guy's chest. Oh, my God. Wow. Who would have thought? I mean, I really feel like I need to do drugs watching this. But them screaming, and I love the enjoyment. They were Paul London was so happy about opening that gift, right? So excited. And then they see the rabbit foot and them all screaming in terror. Oh, it's golden, Paul. If we rated segments on Superstar of the Week, this would get 5 points immediately. But we don't do that. But wow, just hilarious. I loved it, man.
Yeah, and it's especially funny, too, because apparently the Rabbit Tribe views Masquerita as a sort of god, almost. And I don't know if that's because they're supposed to be high during this, even though it does seem like they are. But there's some stuff here at play that's might be more important, but the comedy certainly sticks out the most, and that's what I appreciated, because this is such a radical 180 from the previous segment with the serious biker gang feud, and now you just have a bunch of potheads freaking out about a rabbit foot.
I so wish that Brian Kendrick could just peek in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What the heck happened to you, man?
Let's see what Paul London's doing this week on TV. Oh, what? Oh, man, yeah. I kind of want to be there. Yeah.
I know. He's like, I'm freaking Captain Hook over here while he gets to be the Mad Hatter. What's up with that? I love it. And, and I do want to mention, not that I don't want to no-sell that, Son of Havoc and Son of Madness thing. I think it's an interesting storyline. I know it's nothing that's huge, and I know it's something that's maybe kind of a little bit more down to earth, but I still think that it's valuable. And I love this biker gang gimmick because we really don't see that a lot. And they don't usually go by real rules and things like that when you're talking about wrestling. So I kind of am enjoying this, and I really want to see what the next step is with that.
I agree, especially because I think Son of Havoc's really probably the guy who most people have gone from maybe not really caring about at the beginning of Season 1 to being maybe one of the top baby faces in the entire promotion by at this point in time. And I think really just anything he's involved with, the live crowd, at least for sure, is digging it. And I can't say Son of Havoc has become one of my favorite characters on the show, and I mean, really, they won me over ever since the Bagel Bites promo. So
yeah, how can you not love that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be really interesting too if they tie Masquerade Sagrada back into that, because Son of Havoc gave him a cut. So we'll just have to, I guess, wait and see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we have Drago take on Pentagon Dark. This is really, really good. These two obviously wrestled a lot on the show before. Lots of hard-hitting back-and-forth moves. Pentagon doesn't really seem all that interested in all the shenanigans that's going on with Drago. And they get about 8 minutes of action here. Eventually, Drago falls victim to the package pile driver. And Pentagon afterwards goes to break his arm. Excuse me. Cobra Moon tries to jump in to save him. However, she gets murdered with a super kick, essentially. And this brings out Aerostar, who's making the save and seems to still try to be wooing Drago back to who he used to be. Drago, of course, does not play along, takes him out, leaves him in the ring for Pentagon, and Pentagon breaks Aerostar's arm. So Pentagon obviously still interested in taking trophies. And this leads to a segment afterwards, which from commercial, where Pentagon is walking backstage. He runs into Katrina, and she brings up the old rivalry these two had, where Pentagon is sort of got one over on Meal. Meal doesn't forget, she doesn't forget, and if they keep winning, they're going to meet in the tournament. So if they do, expect Meal to kill you, essentially, is the lowdown there.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be kind of fun to watch. I think that's going to be, it's full of darkness, and that's what's going to be just a great part of that. But, I mean, talking about Pentagon Dark and this matchup, I mean, I think that, they had a pretty, interesting match. I think it was fun to watch. They had lots of action. Mm-hmm. And to see Pentagon Dark win, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm really happy with it. One thing that I find very interesting though, is Aerostar getting involved. He's the guy that turned on. He's the one that kind of screwed up the situation for him. So him coming in protecting, coming out and basically taking the little bit of a distraction from him getting his arm broke. I think it's an interesting part of this, but just the way Pentagon Dark reacted. What's her name again?
Cobra Moon.
Cobra Moon, thank you. Man, wow. Pentagon Dark destroyed her.
Absolutely killed her with that super kick.
Wow. I mean, he just kicked her head right off her shoulders. Mm-hmm. So I love that. I mean, I know it sounds terrible. I mean, we talk about this all the time with the intergender matches, but hey, they do that on this show. So you can say things like that without being like a pig. Rooting for men to kick women's heads off. It's not really what you do in society. But in this, you can. And
it wouldn't be out of character for Lucha Underground for Pentagon to kill somebody with a super kick, honestly.
That is true. I mean, one guy punched another guy's head off and it exploded. So
it's true.
But, overall, I think, with Aerostar getting his arm broke, I wanted just to see how that progresses, that storyline, right? And see where that goes. So
yeah, absolutely agree with you. The entire fallout, I think, between Phoenix and Drago and Aerostar has been really interesting. And we'll see if Phoenix ever comes back to try and step in now that Aerostar is going to be out for at least a couple weeks on TV. So we have all that to look forward to, even though he's sort of tied up in what's going on there with the Marty the Moth and Melissa Santos and all that good stuff. So,
mm-hmm.
And then it's main event time. PJ Black's going to take on Rey Mysterio here. They get about 12 minutes or so. They do a lot of really fun stuff all the way up until we get the entirely too predictable Worldwide Underground interference. They come in and mess with Rey. They lay PJ Black on him, but of course Rey Mysterio is almost a demigod here on the show. He kicks out at 2. Dragon Azteca comes in and runs off Worldwide Underground, leaving the two alone once again, and Rey Mysterio puts PJ Black away with 619 in the Springboard Frog Splash, and afterwards gets on the microphone and tell Mundo he's pretty much he can't run forever from him because he's going to run out of gas in 4 weeks, and that's when Rey's going to beat him for the title. So I can't say I'm not looking forward to that title match. I think it'll be pretty good. But this main event left a little something to be desired, if you ask me.
Yeah, I expected a lot out of this, I think. And maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know. But, I think it was decent. You got what you got. The interference stuff always kind of screws up these matches. It just does.
Yeah.
It's just really all about storyline, I think, with this whole thing. I think they try to give you a little bit of a tease, show you what Mysterio does and what can do. Outside of that, though, it's about the story and moving forward, and that's okay. I mean, sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to kind of come up with something different. It's there. It worked, and I think it got the point across.
Mm-hmm. I agree entirely. I mean, obviously, this is all just meant to build up to that match, but I wouldn't have been opposed to PJ getting an opportunity to go out there and show what he's got, just because it does sort of seem like he's, after the whole agent stuff last week, like he's kind of just maybe on the outside looking in on the group, and playing that up a little here might have been nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that would have been really great if they, used that. But, there may be some other things in play, I guess, we don't see coming down the line.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Lucha Underground. There's twists and turns everywhere. So that does it for this episode, though. We're down to our last 8 in the Cueto Cup. Pindar, Phoenix, Pentagon, Tejano, Mule, Jeremiah Crane, Prince Puma, and Dante Fox. So lots of good matches still to be had.
Yeah, definitely. So until we talk about this next week, we will be moving on from here and talking about this week's Impact Wrestling. Yeah, they had a pretty interesting show. They had a couple big matches here for you to definitely be interested in. So we'll be talking about those right after this.
I still don't have the theme yet. Me and Sean need to have a powwow and trade some themes. So
yeah, there you go. So let's get. We're going to a cold. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Impact Wrestling this week has some fun stuff going on, especially if you're into the X Division. They open, however, they show some clips of the Orlando Mayor showing up because this was taped on what is now termed Impact Wrestling Day. And I believe this is the same place where they honored the nightclub shooting victims from the Pulse and all that stuff. So you get some clips of that throughout the show. You also get to see Grado and Joseph Park arrive at the arena. And it seems like Park is pushing Grado to ask Laurel to marry him tonight, and has brought him some nice clothes and all that. So we'll touch back on that later, because I want to talk about this opening 6-man as Moose, Eddie Edwards, and now Michimar Fuji team up to take on EC3, Chris Adonis, and Eli Drake. And they get a lot of time here, actually. 15, 16 minutes or so. You have the EC3-led team ends up getting the victory here after EC3 low blows Moose and hits essentially an Angel's Wings on Moose to get the victory. This match seemed pretty good. I haven't seen the whole thing, but anything that gets time and you have a lot of great workers in there, you're bound to get something good, and it seems like this delivered.
It did. And that finisher that EC3 used, he calls the ECD.
Oh.
Yeah, and I forget I don't know, and it's Ethan Carter something, Destruction, or he did something at the end. I'll have to look that up again. I've already forgotten. He mentioned in a promo later on in the show, but I've already forgotten what it was called. But, the positive thing for me out of all this is it was a decent match. Everybody pretty much got their stuff in. EC3 wins, which is very, very important. I think EC3 needs those victories because really, just with this new regime, EC3 has been such a non-factor. Yeah, sure, he's gotten his times to be on the mic. Sure, he's gotten his chances to do a few things here and there. But still, nowhere close to where he once was. He kind of feels like he was demoted, to be honest with you. So, at least with what they've given him here and what they're kind of trying to play up and put across, I think that's really positive for EC3. The match itself was good, though. I don't really hate it. I don't really say that, it was boring or anything, but it was pretty much an opening match that, kind of exemplified basically a multi-man match where everybody gets a chance to do what they need to do.
And I think that's fine. There's some feuds in here tied up, obviously, with EC3 and Moose. And then, I think some Eli Drake and Adonis are trying to do something together, and then Eddie Edwards is sort of the link to Noah right now for GFW, and Marufuji is basically still the top guy over there, without really being the top guy. So there's a lot of stuff at play here. I think that's all really well and good, and I don't think there's a really ton to be angry at here at all. EC3 does get a promo later. The ECD stands for the Ethan Carter driver. And he's going to face Moose next week for the Grand Championship. So, more round matches that Gary will hate.
Yes. Yes, I'll hate every second of it. I don't care who wins.
We get a video package for OVE, which is the Christ brothers. Of course, Ohio is for Killers. Dave and Jake Christ. I think this is a really great signing for Impact. You can have, especially since the tag team division is really based around a lot of high flyers right now, and the Christ brothers are just incredible at that sort of stuff. So I think that they'll fit right in here.
Yeah, and really honestly, Impact did a great job of a teaser video. Mm-hmm. I think that their promotion, their promotion that really does focus on trying to get good video packages together. That's one thing that I will say about GFW.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we get this Lashley promo after all that. Lashley says that there's a lot of new people coming around who only really know about him, and they don't really know about him, so they need to learn their place and not really be demanding title shots, because he's really the only one that matters around here. He's the one who calls the shots, and he wants Pritchard to give him the title match he deserves at Destination X. Mr. Pritchard, of course, does show up. He's got Tyrus with him. Matt Sydal shows up because they have all that drama stemming from last week, and says, "You know what, Lashley, we're not ignoring you, or anything." Or excuse me, I'm misspeaking here. Matt Sydal goes into the ring and says, "Hey, man, don't ignore me." Lashley just sort of shoves him out of the way, and hits him with a spear. And no, he doesn't hit him with a spear. Matt Sydal counters with a spear, jumping knee, shooting star press. This is really interesting to me. I'm sure it seems like the live crowd didn't really dig into this or buy into it, but you don't really get to see a lot of X Division guys try to make that step up, and when they do, it always feels like a big deal. And Matt Sydal has looked incredibly impressive on Impact Wrestling TV the entire time he's been here. And maybe so much so that they're going to leapfrog him past the X Division title and put him in that heavyweight title picture is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it per se. Sometimes you would say, well, the little guy facing off against Lashley, it's too unbelievable, and it doesn't fit, it doesn't feel right. But the way that they've used, I always keep saying Evan Bourne and Matt Sydal, it's really positive and it's really believable, and every minute of this is okay with me because of the fact that he has that history so far in Impact. The only thing I will say is I don't know that I just love this whole thing with Matt Sydal, because sometimes he kind of comes off as annoying to me, and I don't know why. Mm-hmm. But he just is in a way. It's just probably my own personal quirk. But I think it's great. You gave him a great chance to get the upper hand here against Lashley and walk away happy. They need to do that stuff. It's going to piss off Lashley. When Lashley's pissed off, basically everything gets more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if this is going to be the match going into Destination X, Matt Sydal and Lashley, that could be really, really fun. Just, obviously the styles clash, but they're both I think they're so terrific at what they do together that can't not be bad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And they've kind of proven in just a short little thing that they can work well together. So,
mm-hmm. Jumping into the X Division action that you have this week, you have another Super X Cup tournament match as Noah's Taji Ishimori takes on Davey Richards. Go about 8.5 minutes or so. Ishimori ends up winning with a 450. With a 450 from the top rope to put Davey away. This seems like it was really good. I've seen clips of this. I haven't seen the whole thing, but Ishimori is an incredible wrestler. I've had the privilege to watch some of his work from Noah over the past couple of years, and we all know what Davey can do at this point. So this really worked well from the parts I saw.
Yeah, it worked well. There were points where it was kind of slow. to be honest with you. And that's fine. I mean, I think what they were trying to get across is that Davey was taking his time, was trying to find the upper hand, and it wasn't always there. Right. And so that was what they were trying to get you to think about, to understand, and all that. And I think it made the match a little bit better. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't like they were going 100 miles an hour. I think what we got here was pretty solid. You know, Davey really in real life is done with Global Force Wrestling, so it's not like, you know, it's a big surprise that he lost this match. But, I mean, still great stuff from Ishimori. It makes him look really good in front of the Impact fans.
Absolutely. And I think keeping, you know, people you're getting in these relationships, making them seem like they matter right off the bat is very helpful, too. Even though, so far it's only come at the expense of people GFW's not really doing anything with, but, you know. Later on in the evening, Trevor Lee takes on Octagoncito. Obviously, a big sort of mishmash here, as Octagoncito is a midget, essentially. And he's promoted by Trevor Lee as this big high flyer and one of the best, and basically Trevor Lee squashes him, even though Octagoncito does get in a few things here. Sanjay Dutt tries to run in and attack Trevor Lee to get his championship back, because obviously Trevor Lee has stolen it from him. Security, however, is all over that and hauls him off. So, little movement there on the X Division title feud.
Yeah, you're right. There is a little movement there, and probably just as little as this Octagon, Cieto, whatever it is. So little people like that are nice, and I love to see him wrestle. And I think this is okay. I get it. I understand it. You know, kind of poking fun at the fact that, you know, there's no way Trevor Lee is actually putting his title up against anybody reputable if he can help it, even though he's not the champion, even though he has nothing to do with it and he's not really the guy. It seems like he gets to hold a lot of the cards, right? Sometimes I wonder if he is the son of the manager. I'm already blanking on his name. Brother Love. Bruce Pritchard. Sometimes, I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. I really do feel like that's a storyline they should just go ahead and do, because Bruce Pritchard lets Trevor Lee do whatever he wants. He's like, oh no, don't let this guy come out here and try to take the title. Oh wait, but it is his. Okay, who cares? Get him out of the arena. The guy that stole it, you can stay in there, hang out. Hey, book your own matches if you want to. Why not? Sounds like there's a father-son thing going on here, but I don't understand that. To me, it's kind of stupid. I would rather Bruce Pritchard not be involved in any of this when it comes to, you know, Trevor Lee and that title and being stolen. I just think it works a lot better without a figurehead of, you know, the promotion being involved. Because honestly, all he has to do is say, give it back to me, or we're going to physically take it, blah, 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 I'm suspending you, all that stuff. So I know that's the easy way out, but it's also, to me, a little silly for Trevor Lee to be having the whole upper hand. So,
I mean, that would be really interesting if they do turn that into a storyline to at least make sense out of all this. Because you're right. I mean, authority figures shouldn't really stand for this kind of stuff, especially when they're a babyface. So, guess we'll just have to sort of wait and see what's going on there. On the flip side of this, the women's division has, the Knockouts division has that last knockout standing match for the championship as Sienna takes on Rosemary. This gets a lot of time too, 15 minutes. KM ends up running in to give Sienna a hand, which ends up costing Rosemary the match, and Sienna walks away still your champion. KM hasn't really done a lot in the times I've watched Impact these past couple of months to really wow me, you know, and he seems just sort of tacked on at times.
Yeah, I think so too. I've kind of grown not to really care about what he's doing. You know, and is it terrible to say that? I don't have any really a lot of interest.
Yeah, I don't really know that you should. They haven't given you a reason to, right? I mean, so I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see there. But this good match here. Rosemary, I think, continues to sort of be one of the best going as far as women's wrestling is right now. So
yeah. Yeah, and that's what's weird too, is because I think Sienna brings something to the table. I'm not a big Sienna fan. She's okay, right? I mean, she does a decent job. I think it's just fan perspective. I don't know if that's really evaluating it like I should, and now analyze her better and all that. But Rosemary's character just brings so much more to the table for me at times. But I get this stuff. I understand why they're doing it, and Sienna being champion and all makes complete sense. I think this is a great match for the fact that I think they used some of the weaponry right. I think overall what they were trying to do with this last woman standing match gave us some great moments to where we could sit here and say they at least put on a pretty good performance. The KM thing getting involved, like I said, I don't care about KM. I don't care what he does. Now it does affect everything. That's he causes Rosemary to lose the match, but still a guy. Even though they show him a lot in some of the backstage segments and stuff, I just don't have a lot of thought processes for right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even when he was doing that whole thing with yelling at people and asking them if they had a problem, it was okay, but still just didn't care.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, they don't really give you a lot of reason to care about KM, but hopefully, I think a lot of people are still invested in what's going on with Rosemary, so hopefully that can carry through still.
Mm-hmm.
So two more things. Grado arrives to propose to Laurel Van Ness. He's got Joseph Park with him. He's got this really ridiculous orange tuxedo on. And Sienna's there to try to stop Laurel from taking the ring. And Grado starts waxing poetical, right? You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. We have this great connection. I really would love it if you married me, all this stuff. And that's when Allie shows up to sort of cheerlead and egg him on and sort of try to get Van Ness to say yes, but Braxton Sutter shows up, and they go away after that. And then Congo Khan shows up and scares the crap out of Grado, who runs off screaming. And Van Ness tries to calm Congo down so he doesn't run off and go kill him. And he picks her up and tries to carry her away as she tries to soothe the savage beast, essentially, from going nuts on Grado. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff sort of tied up into all this. Like, you got a monster, a crazy person, a buffoon, an incompetent lawyer, and a bunch of other different characters all around this thing that, I mean, it all ties back a while. So, I mean, you get some nice long-term storytelling going on here, at least if you don't find this funny.
It seems like we should be checking this out in the fall lineup.
Yes.
Like
total CW stuff right here.
Yeah, it really does seem like a CW promote, like the whole TV show. And I'm okay with it. I thought it was funny. I love basically in the opener of the show where, Joseph Park was telling him about the tuxedo and Grado's like, okay, I don't want to wear this, but he's like, what you need to, like all the best, people, getting proposed wear these type suits and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, people were putting it all over Grindr. And and I love that. He's like, no, you mean Twitter. Oh, okay. But anyway, I think that they did some very funny stuff. It's all pretty much comical. I think the big part about this I'm interested in is the Congo Kong thing. Is he supposed to be in love with Laurel Van Ness? He's just a protector. Is he the big brother? What's that whole thing? Is this going to be a match between Congo Kong and Grado for the love of, or for the hand of Laurel Van Ness, that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes you wonder if they're going that far. But I think overall, it's funny, it's interesting, and I do want to find out what's going to happen next. And that's all positive and a good deal.
Yeah, and maybe something that I haven't really been too big a fan of, and reading what's going on here, I'm still not a giant fan of. Alberto El Patron takes on LAX in a gauntlet match. He starts off with Homicide, pins him in like 20 seconds. Okay. This brings Ortiz in, and Ortiz ends up getting taken care of pretty quickly. I think about 6:20. Yeah, about 4 minutes later or so. Yeah, Diamante gets some interference in there as well. Patron's made a big deal, however, about getting into Conan. So when he tries to go after him, he always gets stopped by somebody, and all this other stuff. He ends up going back into the ring with Diamante. That leads to Patron making this big comeback after he gets his butt handed to him for a little bit. Ortiz, however, makes the save and attacks him for the disqualification. This LAX beats him down for a while. Patron's brother tries to make the save. He gets beat up. His dad comes in with the Veterans of War, and this leads to a brawl. And Patron ends up clearing out the ring with chair shots and all that. And I'm just not a big fan of making your tag team champions look this weak in a match where they have the advantage, and that's what they're supposed to be good at.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's once again it goes back to Patron is the John Cena of Impact Wrestling, right? Global Force Wrestling's John Cena is this guy who comes into the main event and he says, I'm going to do something, and no matter how much the odds are stacked against him, he comes out looking like Superman. Mm-hmm. And same with Del Rio. Sure, yes, the numbers game caught up to him, but you did have these other guys come in and try to help out and all this, and I don't understand where they come into play. The Veterans of War have done a few things that are kind of interesting, but this is probably, to me, the one I don't understand the most. I just don't get the connection. Mm-hmm. Unless they're just trying to suck up so they can go after the tag titles, which could be the case. I look at this and say to myself, too, like you're saying, how much does this make LAX look good? Very little. This does nothing for LAX. And LAX came into this looking very strong. And now here we are, and we're starting to tear them down. And maybe this is the point where they had to get, but I just look at that as being not a good situation. I talk about this with the NXT all the time. Don't tear Sanity down as you build them up. Continue to build them. You can take a step back, but don't take 2-3 steps back every time you make a step forward. Mm-hmm. I hope LAX doesn't become the next victim of that. I hope they have a better game plan in store and hope something works out better. But I don't know. Del Rio doesn't impress me either. I don't care really what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So it makes this whole main event picture kind of boring to me.
I think that's totally fair. Del Rio hasn't really done a whole lot for me either in the time I've spent watching Impact since the change. Really the whole reason I want to watch GFW every week is because of the X Division stuff, because you get good quality wrestling, and I think that's where a lot of the talent is right now. And I love LAX together, but they're being made to look like crap, and that's really unfortunate when you have them, I think, come in so hot, winning all the tag titles and really just looking super dominant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I really do. And man, they've got to get back to what they were doing before all this. I think they've kind of lost their way a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you entirely. Hopefully they can find their way back, though, because we got another episode of Impact to review next week.
Yes, right. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they give us then. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up all our reviews. And we'll be talking, of course, about some other great stuff coming next week. But you don't want to miss out on the last thing we got to do for you guys, and that is crown a Superstar of the Week. We'll be right back with that next.
Superstar of the Week.
Take it away, buddy.
Alrighty, let's start this thing out by talking about the guy that got a point from us, and that is AJ Styles.
Sadly loses the U.S. title at Battleground, which I don't know if we ever talked about that little news bit that broke out about that apparently being a goof on the referee's part, and there's some miscommunication and all that led to Kevin Owens actually winning with that title backstage, and they had to do the quick switch around on SmackDown. But nonetheless, AJ is now a 2-time U.S. champion, and congratulations to him on that.
Yeah, definitely congratulations. And wow, that ref is probably in some hot water. I would assume. And
well, the news was apparently that Vince either changed his mind like right before the match happened and not enough people knew about it or something like that. But I mean, it was confusing to say the least. And it seems like people in the rumor mill might have been right about that one.
Well, however it works out, they definitely need to work on communication.
Yes.
That is not a good situation to be in. But yeah, we got 2 points heading over to Kushida.
Yeah, Kushida retains the ROH TV title this week in a really, really great match with Jay White on Ring of Honor television. I would recommend that to anybody who's looking for some solid wrestling to watch. Good, I would say like 3.5 stars for sure. So go watch it.
Definitely. How many members is a New Day? Well, 3. That's why you also have a special number in 3 when they get him this week.
Great pitch, Gary. Maybe the one good thing to come out of Battleground was that tag team title match between the New Day and the Usos, which the New Day surprisingly won, because I really thought the Usos were going to walk away, but they have a great match, almost 20 minutes, and if it wasn't for the G1, that might have been one of the best matches we'd seen all week.
Yeah, it definitely was. And, honestly, if it wasn't for some of these big G1 matches, New Day probably could have got some more love because, for them being one of the better matches on Battleground, yeah. I mean, you almost want to give them more points because you're like, thank God for doing something on that show.
They at least made 30 minutes of that show worth your time.
Yeah, which if they would not have been on that show, that may have been the lowest rated show we'll ever talk about doing. But, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about Okada, who gets 4 points this week.
Yeah, with the G1 going on, Okada has a fantastic match with Michael Elgin on night 4, bordering on 5 stars, and then Okada also has a great match with Sonata as well on night 6. So lots of great stuff from him all week, and honestly, if it wasn't for this guy we're giving 5 points to, might have earned the top spot again, but he's just had such a great year, Gary. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that, guy alone could be an early favorite for Superstar of the Year. Mm-hmm. Man, Okada's just been unbelievable. So, yeah, and we'll talk about the other guy, and he is the guy that got 5 points from us this week, and he is our Superstar of the Week, Michael Elgin.
Unbelievable week this guy had. Not only great matches with Okada that I just mentioned, which you should all go watch, but Wednesday, Thursday morning, whenever you watched it, him and Kenny Omega had this brilliant, brilliant match that you guys should go watch too, as these guys they can't not put on a great match. And he also had a great match with Kojima in between that as well. So Michael Elgin doing big things. He's won 2 out of 3 of his last matches in G1. Almost 5 stars on 2 of them. Definitely deserves 5 points. So Michael Elgin, congratulations, man. You're a beast.
Yeah, you had definitely hit another one out of the park.
Yeah.
See, you like the baseball reference I gave him there? Yeah. He is a baseball player, so I'd had to give him a little of that. So, but yeah, I mean, there you go. Congratulations once again. Superstar of the Week is an awesome honor for him. So, we are done with the show, and we appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. We've had a blast, Paul, and definitely miss Sean on this show. Hopefully good things are going on for him and his daughter. Hopefully she's feeling a lot better, and we'll hopefully catch Sean on next week's episode, which will be episode 258, part 1. Will be, of course, available Tuesday morning on the download for everybody, along with our big Raw review we'll be doing. So there you go with that. And, of course, all the other great content that we'll have next week will be available on W2Mnet.com. That's right. Go check it out. You'll find everything that we've done this week. Maybe you missed a show or you missed something that you want to go find out about. Go check out W2Mnet.com. Also, you can go find us on, another place, which is YouTube, or you can go subscribe, rate, and review at Apple Podcast, and you can go search out Wrestling to the Max or the W2M Network and get our content that way. And, of course, we want to thank FormulaOneMania.com, who partners with us every week, and those guys are awesome as well. Go check out that amazing site. Well, besides that, just to let you guys know, Sean and Paul will also be doing some more G1 stuff. We're not exactly sure of the timetable they'll be doing it, but we're going to keep you guys informed when they do it. But they've been doing a great job giving you guys some reviews on some of the G1 shows that they've taken that have taken place, and so we're looking out for that. That's will also be available on our stream. So as soon as it hits the dock, you'll be available for you guys and ready to listen to. Besides that, we are done. Thanks a lot for joining us, and until next time, we will see you guys down the road.
Have a good one, guys.
Podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.